the rain is there, it is raining. It's not like you're going to take an umbrella and open up and say, oh yeah, I can actually enjoy the rain. It's about building the ark. And investing, I'll say you can term it like it's about accumulating your asset. If you're getting value out of the content, please do support the channel, hit the like button and the subscribe button, followed by the bell notification icon to get notified about the future videos. When we, the XRP holders, talk about the utility of XRP and the upcoming payment standards and protocols, many still have doubts, a lot of doubts, and it is actually understandable. Because now a full-fledged use of XRP is still waiting for the green light. And the central banks are actually preparing. And they have been doing this from some time. But slowly, they are really slow. They see and recognize the threats emerging from different aspects. And they are looking to control and go into a sustainable future. And from 2016, they were actually weighing on this new technology and they are trying to thrive. Welcome to the Scientific Investor channel, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Deeper connections has to be understood and the scenario should be recognized, because when the price is down 96%, understanding that is okay, but preparing for what's coming next is the best thing to do. As Warren Buffett puts it, predicting the rain doesn't count, building ark does. Not only about understanding that the price is going down, and we have been doing so from a long time. It's about preparing your portfolio for what's coming next, for the uptrend, for the bull market. And yes, when we say the bull market, when the price is so low like this, you also have to understand that there is a kind of recession going all around in the world, in all the different markets, just except some safe haven like gold and silver. They are kind of slowly moving out. So for example, gold has already moved out of its bear trend consolidation and now it's in an uptrend. For the digital asset space, we are still in that consolidation area. We haven't started that up momentum to the upside and we are still waiting to that. But with all this information, we can actually concrete our foundation about why we are in this space, why we are the investors in this, because the majority in the world says cryptocurrency or crypto or digital assets is or are scam.
Private providers today offer all sorts of relatively fast digital payment options. Besides debit and credit cards, you have PayPal and Google Pay and Apple Pay, Venmo, Zelle and Square, and some others. Each of which has its unique virtues and is especially good for particular kinds of payments. And they're not just fast, relatively, they're fast and they're cheap and they're often more reliable than legacy payment systems.
This is where the doubts for many newcomers are there. When we talk about instant payments, they actually think about, no, PayPal does this, Venmo does this. There's a lot of different platforms who can actually do that. Say, for example, Square and other stuffs are actually there. And don't just get confused because of this. These are kind of instant payments as what we see, but behind the scenes, what's happening is still based on the legacy system. To understand that, you need to understand how the banking system, how the payments and settlement works. Payments and settlements is kind of two-way platform. It should be like that. Say, for example, one is messaging and the other thing is settlement. And the messaging should also be two-way. Whereas the current legacy system, it's only one-way messaging platform. And the settlement is being done using the banks itself. Now, listen to the rest, you'll understand.
PayPal for online shopping, Venmo for sending money to your friends, Apple Pay if you use an iPhone, Google Pay if you've got an Android phone and a Gmail account, Square if you don't want to have a separate account as well as your bank account, and so on. But these fast payments providers don't generally offer fast back-end services. On most of these systems, it takes 2 or 3 days for accounts to settle. And therefore, the risks of older style payments are still present, albeit not as great.
So the risk of the legacy systems are still there, right? If, for example, if you are conducting a payment by the end of Thursday or Friday, if the back-end settlements are being delayed, it can actually take 2 to 3 days to reach your account. But yes, there are alternatives, but still at the back end it's similar. It's not 24/7 when we have the information flow like this using the internet. We are still using the legacy system for payments. And what they are looking at,
Zelle is the one exception. It's run by a consortium of banks, and in that system funds are instantly available to the payees. But even on Zelle, final settlement takes a day or sometimes more if you've got weekends or holidays to deal with. So banks, in that case, are exposed to some risk. My second tale is that of a new back-end fast payment system, the RTP for real-time payment system, developed with the Fed's active encouragement by another consortium of private banks called the Clearing House, or TCH for short. Now, it just so happens that TCH began life as this nation's second ever clearinghouse after the Suffolk system in New York in 1853.
So now the banks itself are kind of moving away from the legacy system, and it's not banks who actually own the legacy system. It's a private provider, right? Swift, we all know that. But the thing is, as they move from one system to another, time taken to implement these changes are massive, because the existing network and the corresponding banking system is having a lot of tie-ups, which if they actually have to unwind it, it's really hard to do that, and it is really time consuming. So they can't directly dump one system and just jump into a new one. They have to kind of do that in parallel, working on Swift and moving into the new technology. And once they have sufficient nodes in this new network, say for example if you take RippleNet for that aspect, then you'll understand that they can actually move there, and that is the tipping point which we are all waiting for. But currently the regulations are still not there. We are not having that green light as of now. So unless we get that green light from the central banks for using digital assets for payment flows, we still will be waiting or moving so slowly. Only those who are aggressively positive about this space will be moving ahead. Now, it's not only that, right? When we are at a crisis on a global scale, we also need some kind of push. Governments or central banks are actually providing the liquidity, but they are running out of their bullets, because all the silver bullets which they are being firing is not actually affecting the economy. They're trying to support it, but the economy is currently on fire. They need to put water above it and roll on. Even if they can actually take out the $20 trillion, $27 trillion from the Nostro Vostro account, it won't be sufficient to match up the current crisis. They need something more. They need a liquidity system which can provide the liquidity instantly without waiting for 2-3 days. And for majority of the countries, except USA, say take Russia, China, India and others, they are not actually looking for a system which is controlled by United States, because they are still afraid of the sanctions. If it is something controlled or something which can be controlled by one country, it can put sanctions. Thus, they are looking for something decentralized now. So it's not only us who are looking at a decentralized item, it's the governments as well.
Crisis is 10 years out on the financial crisis. We still don't have the infrastructure perhaps to prevent the next one. And I think this is where digital assets can really help, because an efficient digital asset can really solve some of the key problems in global liquidity. You know, the world's got trillions and trillions of dollars tied up in liquidity just to get around how clunky the movement of value is around the world. If with a really efficient digital asset, something like XRP, again, that's what we believe will be the most efficient, you can now reduce trillions and trillions of capital from being tied up. So you can make those transfers instantly as a bank or as a payment provider or as an enterprise without having to have money pre-positioned all over the world. So
now this perspective is being laid out in front of the regulators, in front of the banking institutions, in front of the leaders of this particular industry, and they can't actually neglect it as they move ahead, because the adoption is going into a certain level where new banks are coming in, banks are putting in new applications, and yes, they can't compete without doing this. As the new technology is moving ahead, we can actually see more adoption. Now this is some banking app soon ready for mass adoption, and say for example, if these are happening in this scale, then the banks are losing its customers, so they won't actually let that happen. Instead, they will also jump into the bandwagon and they will also push this. So as this continues, we can understand that yes, this may take up some share in the market, but the entire market is so huge, one payment provider can't handle it all. Yes, the network will be one, and it can be one considering that the Ripple net can handle so much payments per second. And looking at this, we can still understand that the mode is still on beta. It's not that full-fledged use as of now. We are still waiting for that. This one is a news article which came on yesterday. In this one, what you can understand is the giants are actually understanding the use case of Ripple XRP. They are talking about mass adoption, and it's like Tesla they are talking about, because when the world is actually moving towards the sustainable growth, the sustainable future for environment, for human beings and for everyone, they are looking at a least energy consumptive system in which the entire finance, if it is to run on a decentralized blockchain network, take Bitcoin or other, it won't be possible. And it's not only me saying that, if you can read through this and understand that more sustainable than Bitcoin. Why? Bitcoin's energy consumption levels are so high, and it is really bad for the entire environment. So as we just saw in yesterday's video about the United Nations New World Order, they are actually looking at a target of 2030 to implement this new technology adoption with sustainability issue considered. And when they are all talking about this, you can actually read this. The Icon CEO argues that projects with low sustainability are an obstacle to mass adoption for cryptocurrencies. In that sense, Blinder said that Ripple's XRP and Tesla exemplify how a sustainable project works. Tesla, according to Blinder, has managed to build a product with a good user experience that is still environmentally friendly while maintaining high quality. So the same goes with Ripple XRP. And at the same time, the majority are actually invested in this Bitcoin, right? Which is the most, environmentally harmful cryptocurrency, as we know, as it takes a hell lot of energy. Now, yes, it will continue as a store of value in use. Why? Because there are countries where the oil price is so low and they can use one or another source of energy to produce this and continue the mining, even though it is not that profitable as of now. But everyone knows that this is a market cycle. We are going to get that push from the bottom to the high as soon, and real investors will be investing based on the market cycle. So looking at that, we all know that the fundamental of the entire industry is strong. The money is actually moving into the crypto world or the digital asset space. But why we are so high on XRP? These are some of the reasons, as we just discussed. This is another one which is showing the possibility and the foundation of XRP. Now, we actually know that Nasdaq has a partnership with the blockchain firm R3, and which is actually great for crypto, because Nasdaq is the trading exchange where the money and liquidity is so high. Now, keeping this in mind, you also have to understand that R3 is a messaging platform, right? You need a settlement system to do this. Each transaction has to be settled, and when you're using this blockchain, yes, it is not only XRP which they also have other partnerships like XTC, say that's Zenfin, and It also has that scalability, but the issue is the nodes in the network. As the number of nodes in the network increases, the value of joining the network increases. So say if you have a network where there is only 70 institutions, and if you have another network where there is 300, 500, 600 institutions, where you will jump into first. And say we know the names infin, and it kind of, for those who are outside of China, those who don't know about Chinese words, they just directly think Zinfin. It's something like Chinese. I don't want to touch Chinese as of now due to the global pandemic happening as of now. And even in Asia, currently where I'm in, that's in South Korea, when people are talking about China now, they're looking, the face goes weird. I don't want that. So in that aspect, I don't actually think that majority of the investors will be going in for another system, because we all know that Ripple and XRP is being mentioned in United Nations reports. It is being mentioned in European Central Bank's reports. Now, this is an in-depth analysis of virtual currencies conducted by European Parliament. Now, yes, this is a big document having 33 pages, but when we actually move on to the specific area which we are concerned, we can actually see they are actually describing about Bitcoin, going through Ethereum, and then jump onto Ripple. So if you actually read through this, we actually get one correct idea that we are on the right asset. If you want to read through this, you can actually go find this article and read it. But the important area is Ripple was not designed to be used by private persons for payments for goods and services, meaning that give the control back. If the system is to be used, that gives the control back to the banks. So the banks are not actually afraid that their market share is being taken out from them entirely. The target groups are banks and other financial institutions that can use it as a payment, settling, currency exchange, and remittance system. So we just talked, right? The business goal of the creators of Ripple is that it will replace SWIFT as a global provider of secure financial messaging service. I just repeat that. It's gonna replace SWIFT. Ripple is gonna replace SWIFT. And this is actually written in ECB's document. And now, Ripple does not use blockchain technology. Instead, it uses a distributed consensus mechanism through a network of servers used to validate the transactions. And about for XRP, it's not mined. It is there, and 55 billion of which are deposited in a special escrow account, which is slowly released to the market as governed by an inbuilt smart contract. Any unused XRPs are shifted back into the XRP account. What you have to understand is this report is a bit old, and even they understand this. The central bankers are understanding this, but those who are in the community, say XRP community itself, still have doubts about this. When the day of that month comes, when that escrow is released, everyone is starting to shout, oh no, they are actually putting down the XRP, they're dumping the price, they're allowing the price, they're pushing down the price. No, it's not. They are working on a mechanism which is set. The framework is actually set. Even the central bankers are understanding that. It's us who have to actually have a clear idea about that. Now, continuing, they're actually stating the average transaction cost is currently approximately 10,000 times lower than in case of Bitcoin. So when Brad Garlinghout states it's 1,000 times cheaper and 1,000 times faster, ECB states it's 10,000 times lower than in the case of Bitcoin. So yes, if there are any Bitcoin maxis wandering around, I'm sorry for that, but this is reality. The limit of transactions per second is 150 times higher, and the transaction time is just 3 to 4 seconds. And they also mention this. Ripple uses a negligible amount of electricity as compared to Bitcoin. So it is not that hard to see this happening. The regulators are actually working on this behind the curtain. Now, yes, I agree, the curtains are still closed, so the front end retail users, common man, doesn't actually understand what's happening unless you're doing the proper research, trying to connect all the different dots. But if you are someone who's going through all the details, trying to understand what is actually coming ahead, then you can actually understand this. Now, this is a tweet from the European Central Bank back in 2017, and now I'll just turn off the audio for that. And when you actually go through that, what you can understand is they are actually trying to showcase about how the money is being moved and how the payment system is changing. They are looking at changing of payment system, which is going into more instant service. Now, this is actually showing about tips, and yes, it's not about using XRP there, but it's about the concept which is being changed. Previously, it's kind of okay for them to use a payment system which is kind of taking 2 to 3 days, but now they understand that the demand from the customers for instant payments is there and they are moving into it. And at the same time, they are getting challenge from institutions, technological institutions like Facebook. When they announced the Libra, central banks had their issues with that. The regulators came in, they kind of pushed that red button. But we all know that with money, with the power, it's going to be happening. They are going to come out in some way. But the banks are trying to compete with that and stay relevant even during the era of Libra. And we just heard in yesterday's video, Ripple, the company, is actually aiming to support the banking system to stand up in this new blockchain technology era. Otherwise, they're going to go extinct. The central banks will have to step in and act as a bank for the whole country. And we just heard it from USA that when Fed is coming into the payment sector, the commercial banks are kind of, no, you can't do that. Then if you're doing that, you are kind of competing with us. You can't put out a central bank digital currency, which is retail. Then you are directly competing towards us, the commercial banks. And that's why they're actually kind of separating that by using synthetic central bank digital currency. They are looking at that perspective. Now, this is an old document from Ripple Insights itself, which is from 2016. And in this one, the central bank, European Central Bank, is weighing in on distributed ledger technology. So it was us during that time who didn't understand that something gigantic was happening, and that blow off the top in 2017 was there. Now, even that time, keep this in mind. The blow off started early 2017, right? But this was back in 2016. So even during that time, it took like 1 year, 2 years to take that push to the upside. The price went after a lot of time. So keeping all these fundamentals in mind and looking and understanding that, yes, the rain is there. It is raining. It's not like you're going to take an umbrella and open up and say, oh yeah, I can actually enjoy the rain. It's about building the ark. And investing, I'll say you can term it like it's about accumulating your asset and waiting for that uptrend to take out your profit slowly. If you're getting value out of the content, please do support the channel. Hit the like button and the subscribe button, followed by the bell notification icon to get notified about the future videos.